Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to today's Quran study. We'll be reading from Surah 17, verse 9. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Verse 9, Quran are means to salvation. This Quran guides to the best path and brings good news to the believers who lead a righteous life, that they have deserved a great recompense. As for those who disbelieve in the hereafter, we have prepared for them a painful retribution. So this Quran is, we know as submitters, it's like the best thing, that has come into our lives, because it's a book from our Creator. It's not just any book. It's a book from the most powerful, the most high. Like often people, maybe before submission or before having, guidance, you could wonder, like, what would, be, if they're searching, what type of information or what's the truth, what will come down from God, or what would be his revelation. We actually have a proven scripture now, and so this is the means to our salvation. It doesn't say the Bible guides to the best path. It doesn't say the Torah. These are books that were for specific people at specific times. Like as the Quran mentions, these had specific different duties and things to follow. Like such as the divided hooves, were in certain things that were applicable at the time to the children of Israel, and to other. But the message and the religion has always been the same, and that's complete devotion and submission to God alone, without any idols. And this Quran guides to the best path. So this is all we need. And again, it serves as a test. The test just doesn't stop just because we have a messenger and just because we have a book that's confirmed. It makes it easier, but it also, there's still traps for people. There's still, there's still ways for people to be exposed, even when you have the clear truth. That's when the message is very clear, God alone, what the messenger brought, the Quran alone. And so people who are idol worshippers in their hearts, like in their soul, and they don't want to let go, they're, even when things are spelt out plainly for them, meaning like they're going to uphold other sources, and invent all types of prohibitions. And we see this happening even within submission. We can see how Satan gets to work. But this is good news, to the believers who lead a righteous life, that they deserve the great recompense. And we can see, on the other hand, those who disbelieve in the hereafter, it's a painful retribution. The human being often prays for something that may hurt him, thinking that he is praying for something good. The human being is impatient. So sometimes, we as humans, it's in our nature to pray for things that, we may think that are good for us. And on the surface, we may even run the numbers, look at the pros and the cons, and we may really think, no way, like this thing has to be good for us. We'll look at, little do we know, it's not, so this could happen, to us. And it happens to a lot of humans, but, when we, become submitters, this is why we, Uh, we always turn to God for everything, and we totally submit. And we can even, something I've prayed for is to pray for the right things. Because sometimes we may think something is good for us, as the verse says, but it could actually hurt us. And always in hindsight, after the fact, we end up seeing that, oh, this thing didn't work out, it was for my best interest. Like, God saved me. I mean, I can think of literally dozens of things just in the last probably 3 years, like big, kind of more significant things that, in hindsight, and you can see it now. So it's important to be patient, like at the end of the verse says, patience is only attainable with God's help. We rendered the night and the day two signs. We made the night dark and the day lighted, that you may seek provisions from your Lord therein. This also establishes for you a timing system and the means of calculation. We thus explain everything in detail. So this is, this is a perfect system. I mean, if you look at the design of the calculation that we have, we could have been created where it would always been night or always been day, but these are, as we know, the night is a cover, it's a mercy from God that we can rest and take it easy, and vice versa on the daytime. We can see, we have good sight, vision, uh, wherewithal. A lot of different hormones are affected positively. When the sun is out, a lot of different chemical reactions too, like just within that your eyes pick up from its rays, and same, when you sleep. So these are, uh, if you just look at the complexity and think about how perfect these things are, it's these things to remember God and thank Him for. The videotape, we have recorded the fate of every human being. It is tied to his neck. On the day of resurrection, we will hand him a record that is accessible. Read your own record. Today you suffice as your own reckoner. Whoever is guided for his own good, and whoever goes astray does so to his own detriment. No sinner will bear the sins of anyone else. We never punish without first sending a messenger. So just going back to verse 13, the footnote reads, your life is already recorded as if on a videotape from birth to death. This same record will be made accessible to us upon resurrection. So this is a fact that is as true as like what we see in front of us, like as real as our hearing and our eyesight, our consciousness, when we go to sleep, when we wake up. This is easy for God to do. And right now, like the messenger said, we have the luxury, the privilege, I forget exactly how he framed it or the words he used, but we have the benefit of changing, going in and editing for the day, we're preparing for, right? So we can, right now, we can repent, we can do better, uh, move forward and really, really strive in this sense, because, uh, this life is the most important thing we have, in order to make it back to God. And yet also we're on the other end, it's very, we know it's temporary, and it's not the real life, so um, So I mean, the wisdom here is is God. God knows, what each one of us is gonna do. Our record is already recorded, and for some people it's hard to wrap their mind around, and it reminds me of uh, like a talk like I had with a person years ago about like predestination, and then they I don't know, they kind of averse to this idea of that we see here, and it's not that it's predestination maybe wasn't the right word that was used, but God knows our destiny, but we also have free will, but God is omnipotent, and the messenger explained, gave an example of, about seeing into the future and knowing what decision we're going to make, but we still have the freedom to choose, A or B, or to travel to this city or this city. But God just so happens to know what we're going to choose. I mean, He knows all the outcomes, and we're still freely choosing, in this manner. And this is what constitutes the test. I mean, this is what the stars, the trees, the animals, the mountains, what they're afraid of, what the human being accepted it. So now that we're here out of God's mercy, it behooves us to um, uh, make a good, God willing, have a good record to go before our Creator, especially because we've made it this far and we know, uh, we have the Quran, we have the proof, and so we have to, really put it in high gear and not take it easy in any type of way ever, not for the rest of our life. I mean, naturally we wouldn't want to, because like when we come into submission, we always want to be growing our soul and moving forward. So 15 and 16, whoever is guided for his own good, and whoever goes astray does so to his own detriment. No sinner will bear the sins of anyone else. We never punish without first sending a messenger. 16, if we are to annihilate any community, we let the leaders commit vast corruption therein. Once they deserve retribution, we annihilate it completely. Many a generation we have annihilated after Noah. Your Lord is most efficient in dealing with the sins of his servants. He is fully cognizant, seer. So, I mean, we have, the system has always been the same, right? The messengers and prophets come, and, the communities that they're sent to always reject the message. They turn arrogant. They even challenge the retribution. And as we know, we can see with the Arabs, their annihilation is very close. I mean, they've been taken to the high floor, figuratively speaking and literally. And, the amount of corruption, greed, and that is happening, not just there, but, also we can see across the globe, so. And being that the smoke is coming up, these people, evildoers, it's interesting, just like the next verse is discussing Noah. It's the same system, you know. Now we annihilated completely. Yeah, the Middle East Arabs, they're going to be completely annihilated. Um, But the people bring this upon themselves. The people rejected the messenger, and there's really no excuse, because we can, try to justify, but generally when there's corruption in communities, uh, there's no injustice. We know this. Like God never wrongs the people. So like, we're in this. We're in the test, right? And we know about the king of chaos and Satan's role and our role, why there's so much corruption and war and disease, misery. Um, But generally speaking, I mean, if you do right, we can see, the communities that were blessed, or and God promised to bless them, like I think it was Jonah, and his people believed, they were blessed. So, I mean, but um, we can see the upcoming uh, retribution that's coming, and it's gonna directly affect and annihilate the Arabs, but also, it's gonna affect the entire earth. I mean, including, I mean, every the entire world, not just the Middle East, but that's gonna be directly annihilated, but everyone. 18. Choose your priorities carefully in this life. Choose your priorities carefully in this life. Anyone who chooses this fleeting life as his priority, we will rush to him what we decide to give him. Then we commit him to Jehannam, where he suffers forever, despised and defeated, the hereafter. As for those who choose the hereafter as their priority and work righteousness while believing, their efforts will be appreciated. So this is I mean, this is extremely important, and this right here, also, the way a person lives their life, like to see if they really believe in this or not, is reflected. Like, where do their priorities lie? Do they lie in like the temporary materials, this fleeting life, or are they seeking God? Returning to God in the hereafter. Working towards the real life. Um, but you can see the subtitle of the verse says, "Choose your priorities carefully." So we have to um, not just go along and then tell ourselves, "Oh no, I'm choosing this or this." Like, we have to examine ourselves. Like, okay, where, like, what are your actions saying? And who are you thinking about most of the day? Are you thinking about yourself, the way you look? Are you thinking about material things? And it's not to say we do think about these things. You have to look in the mirror. You have to deal with people with work, but uh, we're supposed to be at a point eventually where we're thinking of God while, like, we look in the mirror and we thank God. We have eyes to see when we're dealing with somebody at work. If they say something wrong or off, like, you think about God or the right way to respond, meaning there's God is always on our mind. I mean, this is and nothing will bother us. This is as we know, happiness is submission to God. And so and then, continually working towards the hereafter, because this is the real life. And this should, really, we should all rejoice in this. I mean, this should make it very easy for us to lose attachment, not being afraid of departing this world. I mean, it's like these verses in the Quran. It's a huge blessing, and it's freeing, because, I mean, I'm sure we lived like our life before this at Submitters. We were all, attached, to worldly, materials. We're, trying to attain this, worried about money or jobs or a house, a spouse, family, getting all, and you were miserable. Or you, at least, something was missing. So, I mean, coming into submission and realizing there's something so much better, it's a sigh of more than just a sigh. It's a figure of speech here, but it's a huge relief, and like, this is very freeing to to be this way, because you don't have any attachment. You lose something, you lose money, you lose this or that, or you gain this or that. It doesn't, because it's temporary, and what is with God is far better and everlasting. Like the verse that says, when some affliction befalls them, they say, we belong to God, and to Him we're returning. And the hearts rejoice. Like as submitters, we should, when we see this, we should rejoice. And like when we remember God, because sometimes we can, the things of the world that are happening around us can be very, very overwhelming. And so this is part of the God system where it's and it's it, it's very it's for us to rejoice in and be thankful. So moving on, verse 20, for each one of them we provide those in need from your Lord's bounties. Your Lord's bounties are inexhaustible. Note how we prefer some people above others in this life. The differences in the hereafter are far greater and far more significant. So kind of like just touching on what I was saying, this is, there's something much greater that, like the messenger gave the example of, the people, a lot of real life examples are good to have, but, I forget his name, but, the examples he's talked about, the examples we can see around us, but, people wrong their souls and, like that famous actor who died in humiliation, and he says, there's something far greater he could have attained, because, he had all the wealth, the money, the fame, the status, and, look, he's gone. You can see his mansion. Joseph Liberace was one of them, but, that was that time era, but, we have plenty of other examples we can think of or use today. And, but these are real life examples. These are people who quote unquote had it all, and now they're not here. Major commandments: you shall not set up any other God beside God, lest you end up despised and disgraced. Your Lord has decreed that you shall not worship except Him, and your parents shall be honored. As long as one or both of them live, you shall never say to them, oof, the slightest gesture of annoyance, nor shall you shout at them, you shall treat them amicably. So, these are major commandments. This has been the commandments in the, since, the first commandments in the previous scripture, it's always been the same consistent, perfect message, that only God is worthy of worship. And He would never, and no humans, or prophets that were blessed with prophethood would ever tell the people, idolize me besides God. You do this, you make this person your God, they're not going to be, you're thinking that they're going to provide for you. They can't even provide for themselves. They're going to, you're going to be let down, and you're going to find out, the people on the day of judgment that are worshiping these idols, they're going to find out, what the truth is. And then also verse 23, it's important to, always treat our parents, and we can see the emphasis too on not even showing them the slightest gesture of annoyance. So this is very important too. These are major commandments they're the ones that God has assigned to us, that brought us into this world. Now, of course, if they, invite us or want us to set up idols besides God, we don't, we disregard them, and, perhaps we can invite them to the truth, but we don't transgress in this manner, and, in the manner of, mistreating them or yelling at them. This was also in the previous scriptures too. 24, and lower for them the wings of humility and kindness, and say, my Lord, have mercy on them, for they have raised me from infancy. Your Lord is fully aware of your innermost thoughts. If you maintain righteousness, He is forgiver of those who repent. You shall give the due alms to the relatives, the needy, the poor, and the traveling alien, but do not be excessive, extravagant. The extravagant are brethren of the devil, and the devil is unappreciative of his Lord. Even if you have to turn away from them as you pursue the mercy of your Lord, you shall treat them in the nicest manner. So so this is part of being, like I don't know, I'm gonna maybe say the wrong phrase here, but it's like part of being the model human being, like being purified into uh, you know, a good submitter, all around, like the whole package, like not, uh, I mean, treating your parents in the best possible manner. I mean, you can't call yourself a submitter and, let's say you refrain from prohibitions or, you follow this, and that, you do good, but then, you go and break these major commandments. I mean, that's not how it works. Like, part of our growth and all of these things is to become perfected. I mean, we should want this too, because it's all it's all part of um, leading a righteous life and being happy. Because God's system, as we know by now, like you follow His system and you're going to be happy. But if you don't, you put your finger in the fire, you transgress, you step out. You're gonna end up feeling the pain. So, um, and then also, verse 26, giving, the charity to the needy, the poor, the traveling alien. So this is, there's, the obligatory charity that can start with our parents, but we also have general charity too. We can, we should, when we see these people in need, if it, even if it's just a little, depending on what, how much you may have, with you, or to what extent you can, but also don't be excessive, extravagant, lest you end up sorry. So extravagant too is, you're not doing it for, you're doing it for God, and, it's best too if you keep these things secret, as we know, the secret charities are better, they remit more of your sins. But don't be excessive and extravagant, because like it's also somebody, were to give you, uh, this is going to be more of an extreme example, but, just for the sake of understanding, somebody gives you a brand new vehicle and you just go give that vehicle away to somebody, and it's like, well, man, that person wasn't appreciative for, the vehicle he just got. He just gave it away. I mean, like, so, I mean, we're not, that's an extreme example, but in the same thing, there's any excessive extravagance is not good, because it's almost, as the verse says, the devil's unappreciative of his Lord. So you just, you get, um, your God blesses you with a lot of wealth or this or that. You just don't go give it all away. I mean, you should actually, you know, uh, use that to spend in the cause of God, and you can be, up to your means. You should be, the more you get, the more you should give. I mean, not just the obligatory charity, right? Because that amount would go up, but I mean, you have to, you're spending towards the year after. So this is the best investment, you know. But also, you don't neglect your share in this world. So, um, and then verse 28, I think this is about, so even if you have to turn away from your parents as you pursue, God's mercy, you should still treat them in the nicest manner, you know. Now you don't, obviously you disobey if they're inviting you to their idol worship or to be idol worshipers. You don't obey them in this manner, but you should still treat them amicably, especially too, because they're, as we have the major commandments. They, your mother, how she carried you in the womb and provided for you, both parents, and they could become believers or submitters at some point. right? So that's that's another thing. 29, stinginess condemned. You shall not keep your hand stingily tied to your neck, nor shall you foolishly open it up, lest you end up blamed and starving. For your Lord increases the provision for anyone he chooses and reduces it. He is fully cognizant of his creatures' seer. So all of us we're all tested. Like the Quran says, we're tested through our money, through our wealth. So we don't uh, remain stingy. The stingy are stingy towards their own soul. Because you can't keep the money. We came into this world with nothing. We're going to leave with nothing, like physical. Of course, like we know there's much more than just the physical. Like there's the unseen and the soul and things we don't see. Uh, but as far as this, the materials and these things that people hoard, or on the other hand, just it's actually, this is a good example. Nor should you foolishly open it up. So the Barbara Hutton store that the messenger actually mentioned, I watched it. It was in the 1970s, but this is it was kind of upsetting. It was a long movie, but he said, he was talking about it. It came out a few weeks ago. I mean, when the sermon came out. No, I think it was in the 1980s. Movie. But yeah, I mean, this is someone who had uh, hundreds of millions of dollars. She was almost a billionaire. I mean, the lady, she was the richest woman on earth, practically. And she was miserable. She tried to commit suicide. And one of the things, you see in the movie, too, I saw it, I think I watched it last week. I mean, she's just giving, she's, for whatever reason, I mean, she was just foolishly, uh, you know, uh, giving so much of her wealth away. I mean, imagine if she would have spent that like in the cause of God or been smarter. But I mean, we can see one of the big examples and lessons to take away is that that's not, about that's not going to bring you happiness. As we know, happiness is the most elusive objective for most people. But also the example I was given earlier, God, the provisions He gives upon you, you're not just gonna go and you know, basically give them away. I mean, this would be being unappreciative. There's I mean, there's so verse 31: Abortion is murder. You shall not kill your children due to fear of poverty. We provide for them as well as for you. Killing them is a gross offense. So I mean, we see this is very common today. People are murdering their kids because they don't think they can afford them, or they just don't want them. It's now, of course, if something happens out of some horrendous offense or gross crime, I don't want to, against somebody's will. That's not abortion. That's not that. So that's not like it's not even in the same. It doesn't need to be talked about because it's not abortion. But abortion is, killing your children out of, you end up not wanting the kids because of, maybe you fear you can't take care of them or you can't afford them, or something happened by accident and you just, like, I mean, we can see all the issues and the problems that have come from this in society, and these people are committing a gross offense. Those who are doing this. So these are very serious things. You shall not commit adultery. It is a gross sin and evil behavior. You shall not kill any person, for God has made life sacred, except in the course of justice. If one is killed unjustly, then we give his heir authority to enforce justice. Thus he shall not exceed the limits, and avenging the murder he will be helped. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, we see, uh, I mean, so I mean, if someone is killed, all life is sacred, so I mean, if people are killing other people unjustly, of course, uh, you have the right to avenge this, especially if you're related to this person. Um, so the person's heir has authority to enforce justice, but you're not supposed to exceed the limits of avenging the murder. But God will help this situation because oftentimes you can't just. I mean, every situation is different, as we know. Patience, resorting to forgiveness, and all. That's we have to take the whole Quran to context. Because I mean, if you have a really evil person, like for example, we have serial killers. We know a lot to mention. I mean, they have to be stopped. Uh, right, yeah, not like one of ours, all of yours. Yeah, I mean, the DHS is posting stuff like from 1930s, 1940s Berlin. I mean, this is happening, I mean, this is all, I mean, maybe the future generations, when they look back, this is going to be written about in the history books, but you can't just imprison such people. They're going to keep doing the same thing, like we have to take the entire Quran. We have many war, entire surah is dedicated to war. How you're supposed to eliminate the threat, because if you don't, they're just going to continue. And then, more people are going to be murdered, more people are going to be raped, robbed, pillaged. I mean, fill in the blank of all the evil crimes. So, I mean, also we have, you set the precedent, and the deterrent for anyone who, um, but we also, it's important too to not, like in Surah 42, you don't you don't become completely blind, raised, by this stuff. You ask God to help you in these situations, and the gross injustice. I mean, that's on a whole nother scale. I mean, it's God is aware of this, and God will help all these people. The people who are committing these things. As we just saw in the verse, that the Avengers. The people who are the victims. They're going to be helped at some point, whether they're maybe not do it themselves, but other people are going to help them or do it for them. Meaning avenging. Uh, you could have somebody in a wheelchair that can't avenge the murder, for example. So somebody else, when people, and it's all out of self-defense, as we can see. I mean, this is I mean, the reason why I'm emphasizing on this, because I mean, we see this happening right now. I mean, people are being murdered in America. I mean, it's like a bad dream in a way, this dystopian stuff, but it's very relevant. It's not digressing in my opinion, but it's actually becoming more relevant today in context of submission, the smoke, and also, um, advocating for what's right, standing up for the innocent, not letting evil flourish. This is all part of it's all intertwined in a sense. So verse 34, you shall not touch the orphan's money except for their own good until they reach maturity. You shall fulfill your covenants, for a covenant is a great responsibility. You shall give full measure when you trade and weigh equitably. This is better and more righteous. So, when you're touching the orphan's money, it's going to be for their own good. Uh, I mean, those who believe and believe in the accounting, how God is watching, their every move, and angels too, and not just that, knows their innermost thoughts. They're going to be very reverent and, only do, naturally it's going to come easy for them to, if they have to touch the orphan's money, it's going to be for their own good or protection. Perhaps there could be like 100% guaranteed investment or something. I don't know, but maybe they would need to consult uh, the orphan on that. Maybe if he's come of age or. But anyway, the point here is, maintaining righteousness. Because what belongs to the orphan or to anybody else, it's their property. So just like if it was your property and somebody else was managing it for you, you would want the best done for you. So naturally, it goes to say, that's why we should uh, be utmost inclined to do the same. You know, like the golden rule, as they say, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And we shall fulfill our covenants, for a covenant is a great responsibility. So I mean, also in the broader scope of why we're here, uh, and any, the original covenant we made to when we came here to worship God alone. I think it's in there's another few other verses about the children of Adam, talking about us and the children, the children of Adam. Um, this has to be this God alone. Our purpose. This has to be must be the focus, and 100% if we want to make it towards the hereafter. Because even these things that are happening around the world, God is preparing. We have to still not become entrenched in any worldly matters, like without remembering God. Meaning God has to be the only one. You know, um, so when we're doing this, whether it's going to work, whether it's even maybe going to exercise or going to the store or planning, or coming up with some strategy. I mean, it all we have to remember why we're doing this. Remember God is with us, and this, will make God our God, and also help us to establish too um, that God is running everything. So this is God will help us, if we ask Him to help us with this. Crucial advice: you shall not accept any information unless you verify it for yourself. I have given you the hearing, the eyesight, and the brain, and you are responsible for using them. You shall not walk proudly on earth. You cannot bore through the earth, nor can you be as tall as the mountains. All bad behavior is condemned by your Lord. And, so we have important information. If we hear rumors or this or that. Of course, we don't or gossip. We don't repeat stuff like this. We have to investigate. Um, these matters, and God has given us the hearing, the eyesight, and the brain. And we're responsible for using them. So people, I mean, just like on the broader scope, I mean, people who accept information from their parents that so and so prophet did this and did that or came back to save them. I mean, they're not verified. I mean, now today for the first time and like and forever and ever, first time in history, you can verify what the truth is, that Jesus is not the Son of God. God be glorified. Muhammad. You're not supposed to make distinctions among his messengers. You're not supposed to mention. I mean, we have proof, verification about this. But also in all aspects of our life, information that comes to us, we need to uh, check it. And of course, like if something happened, you weren't there in the time and place, to see. Oh, I have to see, or how do I know this really happened? Well, no, I mean, you have things called like witnesses. I was actually telling somebody yesterday, like about. I mean, I'm like, man, use your brain. You see a person, an association. I mean, if you see a person, you have photographs of this person walking into Luciferian church or Masonic temple or some. I mean, obviously you're gonna know he's like, yeah, there's enough photo of you. You can, you can put two and two together. So if you hear about this story about this person doing, I mean, like this is part of using the hearing, the eyesight, and the brains. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, guilty by association. I mean, like, you know, but this is just, I'm bringing this up because I was showing somebody stuff last night, and they were, like, how do we know it's real verification? I'm like, uh, it's just, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know we can't like see Satan in this dimension, but if you have a picture of, uh, somebody with, your neighbor or something with, holding hands with Satan, I mean, that should, and you hear, oh, this person did, but you don't, like, that should be, I mean, that's part of, your, the intellect God gave you. I mean, this is part of, I mean, this should be easy for people, but, uh, I mean, a lot of people are just, too absorbed in the worldly life to really care about these things until the wake up call comes. I think that's a lot of people. Really, the big wake up call is in 2029. But you can even show people. I mean, as we know, you can show people the proof, the mathematical miracle, and then they're either just gonna not really care about it, because it's not happening to them. Persecution isn't happening to them, or it wasn't their sister or mother that had this. I mean, you don't even want to think about some of these things, but I mean, this is how these people, uh, this is how people should not be. They should put themselves in other people's shoes, because it could have, easily as happened to them. When I'm injustice, so this is why. I'm just giving an example of, not people shouldn't turn apathetic towards you know towards bad behavior, towards injustice. When we see it, we have to stand up for what's right. Even if it's not directly happening to ourselves. Verse 38: All bad behavior is condemned by your Lord. Verse 39: Quran is wisdom. This is some of the wisdom inspired to you by your Lord. You should not set up another God beside God, lest you end up in Jehannam, blamed and defeated. Has your Lord given you boys while giving himself the angels as daughters? How could you utter such a blasphemy? We have cited in this Quran all kinds of examples that they may take heed, but it only augments their aversion. So, verse 39, the Quran is wisdom. So, I mean, people are going to other sources to uphold traditions and, religious laws. Obviously, Satan has duped these people, and they're setting up other gods beside God because God has given us a proven scripture with the code and told us, you know, especially with a messenger that confirms who, we know, um, only a messenger that is given authorization can produce such a miracle. So, anything he tells us, the information that he's brought to us is the truth. And I mean, in his sermons, in his, in the Quran, I mean, we see if you go to any other sources besides the Quran, you're failing the test. So, mashallah, and, verse 41, we have cited in this Quran all kinds of examples that they may take heed, but it only augments their aversion. So, there's all types of examples. I mean, there's also lessons of history. There's allegories for the people to reflect on. I mean, there's proofs. All types of examples for the people to reflect on, think about, appreciate God. Also, not take the warnings for granted. But for most people, it just increases their aversion. They don't uh, they don't like the truth. If it doesn't conform to their wishes or any of their idolatrous practices. Say if there were any other gods beside him as they claim, they would have tried to overthrow the possessor of the throne. Be he glorified as much to exalt it far above their utterances. So I'm right at time. If there's any comments or questions, please feel free. If I made any mistakes, may God forgive me. Thank you.
MashaAllah, brother. MashaAllah.
Sure, thank you. Good study. Able to hear me? Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's coming in a little bit low though, brother. The audio, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now it sounds normal.
Now it's better.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
better. Sure.
I think very, very important verses and especially good examples in context of things that are going on around us. Because it's also important, one to there are people, for example, who read the Quran, right? But when it comes to applying it to the life, they really disconnected from the verses. And I see that as we read the Quran, whether it's long or study, uh, I always find based on what I see from at the time when I'm reading them, like for example, they got to read a verse about God's creation, right? And then something will happen even then or probably before that is very relevant to the verse that I'm reading about it. And I think this is how God teaches us this almost like it's a creation of God, a messenger of God, and it is like it is like a living, breathing, incredible God is teaching you with practical. having said all that, I mean, we see the verse, like you said, a lot of the things that are happening around us are very relevant. And especially the verse that we read about leaders committing mass corruption. That's exactly something that we have been seeing. And it's definitely on a scale that has broken all previous scales. And funny enough, like I actually gave a sermon on Friday, and exactly what I talked about the verse at length about the leaders. I talked about well, the leaders who were massive. Yeah, because the catch was conservative. So. And reading, I gave the example about corruption. For example, I saw a video where this guy broke it down briefly about the corruption rate. Now we know, like for example, talking about the smoke, right? And we know, like for example, that we see, for example, the United States has somewhat of a central role in the global affairs, and it's like this person is influencing pretty much everything around the globe, right? Including and the people who are enabling, this type of corruption. They're all together. These people help each other enable it. But the thing I saw, for example, and it is very similar for other countries too, because it sets a precedent and an example. Like a country like the United States is doing so much corruption, and is openly going on, and you can just buy do whatever you want without any consequences. Obviously it opens the door for more and more corruption, and you see more and more people fall into it. And we've been seeing that, obviously, as the time goes on. For example, certain countries cannot destroy other countries and bomb other countries and persecute its masses and oppress them. If, for example, in the United States, you have a government that will take action or stand up against that, right? You have them doing the same thing, then everybody is doing it. Then it becomes more easy for everyone to do it. And to give an example, like what I was saying earlier, this guy, he visually presented the comparison. He said, between, if you combine all presidents in the past 100 years and how much money they made while they were president in office, he represented that with the number of a pyramid of cups. So on one side, you have all the 100 presidents, all the presidents over the past 100 years, how much money they made, and he represented with the pyramid of plastic cups with like 5 cups. And then he put on the next side, he said, okay, and this is the amount of money that our current U.S. president has made in the last 8 or so. And that was about probably approximately about 100 cups. It was like a big hole. And that shows put in perspective scale of corruption. Obviously, that's just about
Right.
how much money.
That's just the financial part. I mean, it's
you have all the grossness, all the injustice.
yeah. So Yeah, sorry, I don't want to put you on. Just,
uh, have been complicit in enabling that. Actually, and it's a well-known fact that they wanted this to happen. Like it's in their interest. They don't want it either. And they have partnerships with them and everything. It's pretty bad, and we see this. The kind of corruption that we're seeing now is something that we haven't seen in the last 50, 60 years. Like at least now, happened like broad daylight in front of everybody, like open genocides and open bribery and corruption, open mass killings, complete lawlessness. So things like that, like you said, are a sign that we're very, very close to seeing the smoke that it says in verse 16. Don't forget to annihilate it, and you will let the leaders go out to corruption there and things are very rich. Annihilate it. And so we can see, for example, you have all these countries where they have so much wealth that they don't even know what to do with it, right? And then you have all these people that are part of their own kind that are just starving to death, literally starving to death. And while they're just doing some worthy benefits, they're all, this just for us, it's like beyond comprehension. And then, what the funny thing is to me is you have people who advise others that don't even supporting these types of things. Like, and I'm not just talking about like in the West. Like I'm talking about people in the Middle East. People who are like in combat every day, like something inside. And they praised their dictators, these Arab dictators, like their countries that were like clearly more criminal
these are submitters?
Yes, they call themselves submitters, but then it's not surprising at all because we've seen it in once almost support similar ideologies.
I mean, it should be, yeah, like it should be spelled out clear, especially clear for them about the Arabs and like you know. I mean, also there's no excuse in the U.S. like those people the other day. I mean, that are just. I mean, like imagine you describe. I mean, horrific acts happening to somebody. Like I don't even want to bring them up again. They're just anger, infuriating, and just so grotesque. But like, and then the person, children told me what they said too. They said, "Oh, it's old news," or yawn. I mean, like, how evil do you? Like, how like. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like, you can't even wrap your head around. Like, I mean, these are submitters; they should know better, and they're not even batting an eye or like raising an eyebrow. Like, man, let me listen to what he's saying. Like, wait, is this stuff true? Like, why? And,
Yeah, I'm talking about people that are submitted on it. Supposedly they should know better.
yeah, they should. They're just. Yeah, like, going back, I remember uh, thinking about or coming across this verse, uh, and just thinking about what's happening in the United States, like the vast corruption, and especially like you said, the financial visual representation, but that can also, I feel like those cups could also be proportionally used to represent like all the other corruption, like the blatant oppression, murdering, cold blood killing. That I mean, the illegal unconstitutional, ungodly things that are happening. Um, I don't know. Maybe he needs more cups to come up with that. But yeah, like I mean, like it's yeah, yeah, exactly. Falling into place perfectly. I mean, like in the sense of like, yeah, this is, you know, like all the signs are here. You know, not just like the mathematical signs and stuff, and that we've gotten and we've seen, and the non-mathematical stuff. But I mean, just the annihilation that's coming, and the things that are happening in real life, like around us, you know, in the world events, in correlation to the timing. I mean, like the timing, you know, like is perfect.
And isn't that amazing? Like, you know, when I found out about Pakistan, this stuff was happening.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. None of this.
No idea that
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, none of it. Like exactly, exactly.
and you know, it doesn't stop even. It's like uh, it's also spreading to this whole discussion. Are we gonna see? We're gonna see typos going on places.
Yeah, you know, too. The more like
Yeah, worse.
right. Yeah, I mean, like the verses, like you're saying, pretty much like both pages. You know, today were very applicable. You know, also about prioritizing the hereafter too. I think that's it. It's such a blessing from God, like to have the Quran and the knowledge. Because I mean, you know, with the Bible, like you don't. I mean, especially just speaking for myself, you don't have this information in the previous scriptures, and I mean, you do like in the broader context, but you don't have like the wisdom, the same level and the same quality of wisdom, and that you know you can you're not gonna get the same benefit. You know what I mean? So I mean um, you know, thinking about like everything that's happening, uh, it's uh, yeah, it's very freeing to you know, prioritizing the hereafter and not um, being like heavily attached to the ground or anything that or any you know attachment to like our goals and aspirations. Like, okay, I want to get this job or this house, you know, because I mean these are all good things, you know, we can still strive for, but you know, if you're not like a submitter, you don't have the Quran or know the truth, you know, these things are gonna you know, like I see so many people like on social media, on YouTube comments, like people like are very upset, you know, and like rightfully so, I guess you could say, but you can see the misery, like how they're, you know, this younger generation is talking about being priced out of a home and this and that, and like how, like you can see the depression, you know, and like I understand like where they're coming from in the sense, but like we actually have the antidote or what's the we have the I guess you could say these people don't have the cure, the antidote, you know, the truth from God, like about that those things are just temporary anyway, so they shouldn't be getting upset over you know like you know they're not gonna you know even if they don't ever get you know their house or whatever spouse, like it's not this is just all temporary, you know, this is like everything and more I mean in the hereafter, that's what they should be seeking, you know, God who can give them much better. So this is like a huge like before coming into submission, you know, this was like I'd say, I mean, at least for me, you know, I'm sure everybody else. I mean, this is a big like burden, you know, like being absorbed. So I mean, this is
What's the burden? Sorry.
just like being absorbed, like with the in the worldly life, and yeah, just like because you don't know like the purpose of life. You think like the messenger talked about like a lot of he gave us examples of, like these people. You think that going after money or going after this or whatever the case is going to be or materials, is like what we're supposed to do. And we can see nobody. Uh, or all people that have done this haven't been successful like in their happiness. They're still um,
We also want to just talk about verse 13 in the videotape, how we forget that our every single aspect of our lives are not about earning life. We think that we can be wherever we want to do watching us. We think that we get away with because nobody's watching us, or forget or don't believe. As the verse says, they say they have no such thing. There are no such thing as invisible guards. But I know very well from the world and the miracle that was going, and our lives are being recorded in such detail that we don't even understand. Of course, we forget the next day what we did, right? But everything goes on the record, like it's just because you may forget what you did yesterday, because God forgets, your entire life is being recorded. You will have access to your entire. And so people thought about that when you go to sleep and live differently, but because they don't believe it, people are going about, they're trying to find evidence and doing what they can as long as they get away with it and lie and blame someone else, for example. But God is teaching us that reminding us that everything we're doing, everything we're saying, even the things that we think about that we don't even verbalize, right? God knows what you're thinking. God knows what is in our hearts. I mean, sometimes we don't even know what is the bottom reason for what we're saying or thinking, right? But God witnesses, right, our thoughts, right? And if you keep that perspective, like imagine if you're always in the spotlight, like 24 hours a day in your life, and let's say everybody's watching you, you're gonna live very differently, right? The moment you know that someone is watching you, right away your our attitude or our behavior changes. Like you could be talking to someone in one way, like behind closed doors, and then the moment you see another person watching, you're gonna respond very differently depending who this person is. If you really care about this person, what they think about you, you try to be very nice and impressive. You're but otherwise you probably would pray for nobody there. But we have to know that we're being watched this whole time from start to finish. Our life should be lived in this way so that we're on the day of judgment. We're not living. We're not living our eternal life of regret, as most of these people will. Majority of the human beings. And so that's why God has set us that we should prioritize also very carefully. So we have Brother Josh there, moving this on. Do you guys have any comments, questions? So
I know Brother Jopper has a question.
yeah, he just doesn't know what it is. Yes, so I think Brother Joshua was talking earlier about some degrees, so maybe we can talk about that in the off topic, or just also, yeah, I think another important point we discussed today was, well, there's so many major commandments too that God talks about. They're all very, very important, especially honoring our parents. So, I think this previous thought that's right in the right of that, very, very important. So, talking about honoring parents. They were talking about China, and this person gave a code of ethics or something for the family. They have like their own book, where they guideline. So, talking about respecting the elderly and stuff. So it's use that to make progress. I got honoring the parents. And but I mean, there's no such thing in the Quran that you have to respect your elders, right? I mean, the elder person could be just as bad as or being but when you say respect the elders, like like the hierarchy, that you're close, like talking about, for example, the older brother. There's this thing where the older brother is a higher rank than the younger brother. So the older brother says something, then the younger brother has to listen. And you don't have any such thing going in the Quran. But obviously God talks about honoring their parents. Definitely honor our parents, and something that it's always a gesture of anointing. For some people, it's very hard, especially as their parents age. And you have to deal with it every day, and they become more like children as they age. That's the point to which also they kind of, but I think this is more common in the younger age, as the kids are growing, and they're not short enough. Or annoyed by their parents. I mean, you see that it's a common thing, right? People like, they on a regular basis they will frown upon them or just have this kind of a gesture of an honest. You kind of look down on them in a way or take them for granted, right? Obviously, if you raise your children correctly, if you teach them the right thing, and advise them to be righteous, I mean, none of these things would be happening. And God willing, for the submitters, God will give us good kids. But this is something that we see, at least out in the common households where, kids are very disrespectful or insensitive and rude, outright cruel to their parents. Some children will make their parents cry, as God says in the Quran. So, but these are all made. It's important that God puts these commandments, these family values for us to learn. I mean, how detailed God has made the scripture. All these things are there for us, to learn from. And God says not only that, like, lower your wings of humility and kindness for them. Be extra kind to them, because God is even aware of our innermost thoughts. Like even you can't have bad thoughts about anybody, right? Like your parents, for example, especially in this case. I mean, like, for example, you may not be annoyed or you may not show your annoyance, right? But maybe in your mind you're getting annoyed, and you're objecting, etc. But I think it is very important, especially for a human being, to be a whole, normal, functioning human being, to not have like grudges and things like that and anger issues, stemming towards their parents, for example. I mean, most people with, I'm talking about most people with normal parents. Parents, for example, recently we heard so many stories. Like, not all parents are the same. Some parents may be totally like evil, but still, I mean, just talking about it from a submitter's perspective, right? Most of us living in normal households, like we have parents, and they're not perfect, right? But if God tells us to be appreciative of them, you know, and of course, you may have parents that may have wrong views one way or another, but we have to learn to also forgive and forget some of these things and just appreciate God for what He gave us. Like, God knows, like, what family or what household we were supposed to be born in, and what family was best for us, for us to, go through our testaments. God's design, right? God's system. And God says we shall be appreciative. So, uh, this is what the second commandment, obviously, people forget. But then the other one that I really want to talk about is that you touched on, mashallah, also was the extravagance part, right? So, I mean, even God says that here, when you have to give to charity, you cannot be extravagant, right? I mean, uh, it's important for us to be kind and helpful to other people, right? But then there's also a line where it becomes that kindness can turn into unappreciation because God gave you something and now you don't care, you're giving it to other people, right? So I mean, if you give it in moderation, it's fine, right? But if you cross that line, then obviously you're going into a, an area where you're actually hurting your soul. And we know that this is the devil's way of trying to push you off the path, like pushing you to an extreme. So on one extreme you have stinginess, and he's going to try to push you. No, don't spend this money. Like, this is for you, and you're going to be poor if you spend this. And how are you going to eat, for example, and this and that, right? But then on the other extreme, you have this extravagance where just because you have money, like, you think that you can spend it on whatever, just because you have it. But just even if you have it, money can be spent in many different ways. There's areas where it's productive, and there's areas where it's counterproductive. And when you cross that line into extravagance, you're actually hurting yourself. So we have to use our minds and understand the balance. Like, um, make sure, like, you do your due diligence before you're paying for something or buying something. The justification for what you're spending the money on, and make sure you ask yourself these things. Like, for example, when people get rich, they may buy, for example, someone may buy a car for $5 million. For $5 million, I mean, in the United States, you can buy like 6 or 7 homes in good size and everything, for example. And spending that money on one car, that's only gonna last you maybe 30 years. Money, it becomes extravagance. But just because you have, you may think that you should spend that money, right? But you should ask yourself, like, is it really worth it? Like, I mean, you have examples of people, for example, in our society now that are rich and have millions, but they don't spend millions just because they have millions. They don't spend millions on cars. They may get a Toyota or whatever, because they understand that, it's pointless. And they may be smart people, or make smart financial choices. So, you could use that money for something good. But even for charity, like you said, God have to care. It just really brings up, reminds us, how important it is uh, to exercise moderation, because the extremism, that the devil pushed you to, it's satanic, it's a way to get you off the path. So if you think that you're gonna get closer to God by becoming an extremist, I mean, that's just the devil. And we see how the devil uses extremism in different ways to push people off the path or another. And if we practice, God's advice here, what God is teaching us, use your brain, use your best judgment, and not be extravagant. At the same time, you should not be stingy either, because we see people who are stingy too. God says, "Do not attain righteousness until you spend on good things you love." Right? And people fail. People fail, especially people fail when they become rich, as people may pledge to God that when they're poor, that if you give me money, be more charitable, and then they get the money and then they're not charitable. They break their promise to God, become stingy after a certain point of view. So we shouldn't be like that either. So all of this is very important for us.
Also, thank you.
And also what you said, I like what you said about the advice to accept information until you verify it for yourself, because we're living in an age, there's so much misinformation. And we also have like AI on top of it now, using
Yeah. Like the only thing.
to make a bird that looks like a monkey, or something, and then you look at it, you're like, oh wow, like, what, this is an amazing creature I've never seen before.
Yeah.
You look in the comments and it's fake.
Yeah, and another thing I've seen old videos that I recall from like 10 years ago, these viral popular videos, and people are actually calling it AI, and luckily, really, we're just I was going to comment like, no, like this has been around before, long before AI, and people are calling it AI because it was kind of hard to believe it was like a viral, but it was a real video. And then other people in the comments are like, no, this has been around. Like, LOL, what is AI doing to people? Because now it's but yeah, like it's important to
yeah, and now I mean AI is so hard to distinguish. It's getting better and better. Uh, you see people, for example, saying stuff that they're not actually saying. You see them on the screen, with lip sync and everything, expression. I mean, right.
I think Brother Suleiman got disconnected.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna be back.
Yes, I'm back. Yes. Sorry, I can go back. Yeah, but I'm saying right now there's still giveaways that you can tell like if something's AI or not, like the expressions and stuff. But it's just becoming more and more difficult, and especially if you try to change the face and you actually use a real human being, you know, um, to drive the animation, like it becomes very difficult to tell if it's real or not. But thank God we have the messengers, videos, audios, from before AI came,
Yeah, exactly.
And we have it all documented,
Right, we know
because
what's there, like so any additions, like no, it doesn't match up, so they can't.
Yeah, especially because people who are against the audios and videos, always used this concept from maybe 10, 15 years ago, like they had been giving like talks and stuff at conferences, to deter people from listening to the messenger of the covenant, uh, by telling them that no, in the future you can do this and you're able to. And they were giving like primitive examples of experiments that people were doing and all that. That people are going to use AI to say this or that about the message.
Yeah, I mean, we already have the videos and that. So I mean, if they were discouraging people, there wasn't AI at the time when they were saying that, and so I mean, they're literally, it's like they're no different than someone walking in if they went through a time machine, walking to the messenger's mosque and telling them, no, don't listen to this. It's the same stuff that was recorded. So it's like a time machine in a way, and they'd be discouraging people from literally, he'd probably say, no, leave my mosque. And they're saying it's the same thing, because, I mean, there's valuable, yeah, teachings, yeah, very valuable teachings and information, like end of the world. I mean, clarifications and, I mean, the Quran alone. I mean, his final conference. I mean, that puts a lot of disputes to rest.
Yeah, and we talked about abortion last time, right? Study also, remember?
I don't last study.
The one before that. I think, but I think I mentioned. Oh, it was about the girls' bias against the girls.
Right.
Yeah, but this is just about abortion.
Yeah, I mean the Quran never. I mean it's amazing how relevant. 1,400 years ago. I mean any other book, like 1,400 years ago is not relevant. Because
yeah.
I mean,
Also, you talked about the killing.
Yeah, that's another right.
Injustice.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Because it's. I was kind of wondering, like the heir is given the right, but I mean, sometimes the heir may not even be alive, or the heir could just be a child. But I mean, the avenging needs to happen. I mean, especially we have other, taking the entire Quran into perspective and the times of war and like people,
yeah,
like
I mean, the thing is like avenging is optional, right? I mean, God says, for example, you can forgive even, for compensation, for example, instead of killing the person. And obviously, we also have the law of equivalence, where you can't kill the person. For example, if a man kills a woman, you can't actually truly enforce the killing of that man, right? But when you have someone committing horrendous crimes, you know, um, God says God says even worse than just killing them. Like God says that they should have their hands and feet like cut off on alternate sides, and 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 this is something that these are the because these are the kinds of things that they would do to others.
Mm-hmm.
And but I mean, God says here that He has made life sacred. So we have to be also, very, very careful that you're not killing an innocent person. And this is, but what we see today, people kill indiscriminately. They open fire for whatever reason, just to terrorize people, or to feel pleasure, which is unbelievable. Yeah, but I mean, avenging the murder, like if it applies, for example, if it's a man for a man or a woman for a woman, God still allows it, right? But still, God says it's better for you, if you can forgive a person, and I mean we see the kindness, because one family's already hurt and broken, and then you want to go ahead and inflict the pain on another family as a result. Like, it's allowed, but it's not the best thing to do for your own soul. Like, better to exercise compassion and forgiveness. And these are the things that the Quran talks about, right? And then, for example, for people to say that the Quran advocates violence and this and that, like, you don't find um, stuff like that in other religions, even, hardly.
Yeah, there's some off-topic questions too. After nothing, just an off-topic question.
You have a question?
Yeah, but it's off-topic though.
Okay. You can do off-topic questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Brother, I have a question about the verse 16.
Verse 16?
Yeah, verse 16. Yeah. So, God said about the annihilation, complete annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, is it like it will be completely destroyed, or like, say, maybe is combined internal destruction, like collapse of economy, collapse of institution, all combined the society, or the completely, destroy the society. So what God wanted to say,
So, yeah, I mean, so if you look at what the messenger of the covenant wrote about the smoke, right?
Mm.
So I think this will shed some light on it. So if we go to the article the messenger of the covenant published, the submitter's perspective is also on submission WS under articles, right? So I'll just read it for us.
Okay.
So, small prophecy. Okay, so it says, as prophesied in 44:9:15, a massive asteroid will hit somewhere in the Middle East. The resulting heat will burn living organisms within a 100-mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
That thing within a 100-mile radius, instantly everything will be burned,
Mm-hmm.
like vaporized, like
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't exist, nothing. It's just gonna be completely like wiped out.
Yeah, wiped out. Yeah.
Totally. And then others around it, obviously, it says total devastation will envelop the Arab world. Main opponents of God, His miracle, and His messenger of the covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And it says the Quranic prophecy in 44:10-15 will come to pass. A giant dust cloud will envelop the whole world and obscure the sun for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
In fulfillment of 17, the Arabs will mock and ridicule this prophecy, right? And it says what will happen. When this will happen, I don't know when, but I have a strong feeling that will take place before the end of 1990. Only God knows the exact time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, the amount of information he had about it. But he didn't claim, obviously, that he knew when it was going to happen. But he says, I don't know when. He says, I don't know when. But I have a strong feeling that this will take place before the end of 1990.
Yeah. Yeah, so that means some people will be still alive over there, right? Those regions, not
Where?
all the people in the Arab world.
No, it's just their total devastation will envelop the Arab world. it's annihilation for them. But within a 100-mile radius, everything will be burnt instantly, right? But after that, other things around them, will not burn instantly, but they'll still have the effects. Like, for example, when something this powerful hits, right, there's going to be things like earthquakes and fires and stuff, right? So, and you have these skyscrapers and these big structures that they have been building, right? All of them, they're going to crumble. They're not. Nothing is built for for an impact of this magnitude, right? When they build buildings, they're not building it for asteroids, safe building. Like when something like this hits, like I don't know what the magnitude of the impact will be, like how the earth will be shaken, But it's for these people. Obviously, it's going to cause a lot of instability in the crust, and they have a lot of oil and things like that. I mean, all of those things are going to catch fire. God knows how bad it's going to be. But but we know the Arabs are going to be. When God says the Arabs are going to be annihilated, like I understand it personally. I understand it that they will not exist anymore. Like maybe you will have, their remains here and there, maybe one or two, or a couple people here and there in other countries. But that whole area, I mean, it's going to be completely devastated. As there was says, total devastation, right? Not like partial devastation, like the people are alive. That means other things are there, But total devastation means complete destruction, Like for example, now when you see Gaza, right? It's completely like it's just rubble. There's nothing there, all these bombs and stuff. There's no people. There's nothing. So you can see it's going to be like a similar thing for those other places around them. There's just going to be rubble and destruction. People will die in their homes and from the gases and whatever.
Okay. And another question is, like, I think the corruption, main root of the corruption is from the religious, right? Because of they corrupted the religion, because God gave them the Quran. So I think the main thing, they corrupted the religion. That's the main reason thing, right? Maybe.
Well, they
No,
rejected.
it says they disbelieve the messenger.
Yeah.
Disbelieve the message. They oppose the message. They're the main opponents of God, His miracle, and the messenger.
Yeah, they also, like, in a way, they've also actively, I mean, like, deterred, like people, like, so people I've talked to, fellow Christians or, people alike, have, bring up these crazy examples and stuff, and I mean, we see, like, it's nothing to do with the Quran and, they just examples and reasons for them to disbelieve or talk bad about Islam or submission. But I mean, those people are just as guilty, because I mean, myself before coming into submission, like if I didn't know something, I'm gonna look into it, or I'm gonna, like my dad did, even though he ended up disbelieving later on. I mean, you investigate, you don't be arrogant in that sense, like you're gonna do your due diligence, but they've also single-handedly, I guess, played a part in a lot of people, getting the entire wrong idea about Islam. So I mean, it's very difficult to talk like to people. I find like it's extremely difficult, like to convince them, like no, like like they have something called hadiths and sunnahs that came 200 years after, and they kind of just look at you like, oh, you, like they just don't believe you, or they just, I don't know, they're just so brainwashed, and it's just too bad for them, really. Like Suleiman told me a while back, if somebody, I mean, this always stuck with me. This was like, I think 2 years ago. But if they deserve to be allergic, to the Quran, like they deserve it. Let them be. That's their loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so going back to the idea of the corruption, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see when people are going to get annihilated, they do all kinds of corruption, right? So obviously, when they're disbelievers, they'll do every kind of corruption, right? It's not just going to be the religious corruption. It's going to be all types of corruption. Like people are lost all morality, like they forgot God completely. That's what the corruption is, right? Because that they just commit sins. Like corruption to me does not mean like let's say a president is just being corrupt or his cabinet. Like I'm talking about like people killing people indiscriminately, doing crimes, raping people, children. All this stuff is 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 disbelief in God,
Vast
right?
corruption.
Yeah, it's disbelief in God. Not killing people. Innocent people. That's vast corruption. That's not valuing people's life as God has. These are all God's laws that they're breaking, right? And that's what corruption is. It doesn't mean that you just change the religion, or you add some laws in the that has been happening for hundreds of years. They did it for 1400 years. Smoke didn't come then, so, right? But obviously, God sent a messenger, right? First of all, and they spent all their money. I mean, not all their money. They had a lot of money, but they just spent the money tons of money to destroy, the message. Like, for example, if the Arabs weren't against the message, right, the entire Muslim world right now would be a submitter. If you look around in the Muslim world, you go to any country, you will see how much money the Saudis, for example, and the Arabs in general have spent to open madrasas, to extrematize those countries with so much nonsense. Like they have all these institutes, and these were the places where when the message was discovered, at least the miracle was discovered. They were having classes about the mathematical miracle. Special classes were going on in these places. It would be talked about, and then when the messenger proclaimed that he was a messenger sent by God, and that we should follow the Quran alone, they spent money to remove all of those things from all these places. That's why, like, when you tell people, like, why do you think nobody knows about mathematical record? It's not because the message didn't reach to those places. It didn't reach those places. People were excited about it, and then they removed it. They destroyed. There was an active campaign to destroy all the evidence. Like everybody was talking about it. Like all these big Islamic organizations, they were all talking about it. Everybody was talking about it, right? And then all these people were collectively against them, based on all the money that the Arabs were spending. To the point that they were even buying, like it says in the footnote, they bought all the books and destroyed them. So they did the opposition to that level, to the point where nobody knows about.
Yeah, most Islamic countries, they follow actually they get them, scholar of like Medina University.
Yeah.
The Imam of Kaaba, Medina.
Yeah, but I mean it's interesting. Yeah, but I mean but it's interesting that to build madrasas and spread misinformation. After the messenger came, then they started spreading their falsehood in all these other countries. For example, like in places like Pakistan, and I don't know about Bangladesh, but like Pakistan, Morocco, all these other countries, Turkey, people were normal. Like they weren't wearing headscarves. And they weren't like there wasn't this fundamentalism that we see after that, right? The Wahhabism came after that. They started spreading all this stuff, and they spent a lot of money to promote these things. They turned people away from submission and hide the evidence. But obviously, they took it to another level after.
Yeah, it's same thing in our country, brother. Yeah, we have a scholar, who get degree from the Madina. They call the Madani, all of end of their name. Madani, and who get the degree from the Azhar, and they call it Azhari. So they are very big as scholar. If I'm going to tell them something, they don't listen to you because they listen to the Madani scholar, Azhari. So so it's connected all these religious, influences. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, they even got to the point where, for example, one person, that's who comes for it, he got a PhD from Azhar, and then he was talking about Quran alone, and they wanted to take his PhD away. Like, the message was done, he said, how do you take a piece of already given him? But they get away from it.
Yeah, I think they also wanted to put the committee on trial that gave his PhD. He said too, like that's not bad. They were gonna put him on trial. Like, how did you give him? Yeah, they just were supposed to. Right.
But brother, if I see that like in a society, so in our country, I see my experience is more corruption than like the Middle East. Like even if you go with Dubai or Saudi, uh, in the society, corruption is not that high, but in our country, every
You see, no, I mean, the thing is, like, it's just happened in a different way. Like, for example, like, you go, because we're talking about the Middle East. I mean, when you talk about Bangladesh, let's say, France, similar race, like they do, for example, the policeman is corrupt, pulling right, stuff like that, right? But it's at another level. Like, for example, when you go to the police, right? And you have that's another level. Yeah, I mean, you have these, women, you have these you have slaves, and God knows what else they're doing, but you don't see it because they have so much money to cover it up also. They're not like the people in Pakistan, Bangladesh, they're sophisticated, they're more sophisticated, and they have the money. When you have so much money and power, you can't see their crimes because they hide behind their money and their like, for example, you can't talk against them, right? Because if you talk against it, you're gonna be killed. You're gonna be killed to the point like you're gonna have your limbs cut off, right? In another country, even like you will not even be in the country and they'll send someone from another country and cut off all your limbs, that's how bad it is. And then they'll pay everybody so that there's no evidence, nobody will talk against you, they'll bribe everybody. But what we see on the lower level, like in the areas, that's also corruption, right? But that's at a different level. To me, that's how I think. Uh, these people are way more corrupt than these people are like training. Okay, those are like the pros, I would say.
Yeah. That's correct.
And really, when this stuff comes out, when you hear the stories, if you really dig into it, then you understand how you like. For example, let's say Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh, they don't kill you for every reason. You know,
We lost him again.
sorry, I got cut off.
Yes,
So, yeah, so in Bangladesh, you don't get covered or you don't get murdered for anything. In Saudi Arabia, you get murdered for any reason. Like, I think, I don't know, like I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard, for example, when you go to Saudi Arabia, they actually have some drama, where they believe that they would murder and they were not liable.
Mhm. Yeah, they have some Islamic punishment, so-called Islamic punishment is not sure. They follow some kind of fake Sharia, something like that, like the bigger. So, but most of the country, like in our country, even though they don't follow all of those things. But some people are trying to follow those things, bring to our country from the Saudi Arab or so, yeah. But
Yeah, I mean, what we see in a lot of this, I mean, what we see in a lot of this, a lot of it comes from power, like this is bribery, stuff like that, just from power. But like, look at a country like all these countries, they don't have power. So many ways, and they have public execution. This was, I think, they stopped doing the public execution for up to you have public execution for robberies, smuggling, and terrorism, for rapes, for arrest, for homosexuality, apostasy, you know, but we know how they're very bad.
yes, mostly they have no freedom of speech in those countries, yeah, basically.
Yeah. I mean, people are actually just evil. That's the way I can see. Like, people really need to grow up in other countries, but they're still human beings. Like, they're not as wicked. Yeah. That's why none of the from the Arab world got their Quran have some special qualities. They're qualified. Yeah, there's also a lot of prejudice. They say that we know why this person is not from them. That the Arabs are so proud of it. Arabs, like, normally people should be proud of they have done or something that they know, so they've achieved. And they're proud of being Arab. And the non-Arabs is one thing. For example, you can see how we discriminate the Arabs against Arabs. If you want, if you child, one, somebody, right? Let's say Saudi Arabia, if you are from, like, neighboring country, if it's Americans, don't give it to you. But if you're from an Arab, so then people get so much money.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And influence throughout our society, like the Arab, and
Yes, yeah, it's the kind of slave ways they get.
Slavery is so bad. And people still do it knowingly. They're desperate for it. And I have not received the first for the son. And she has been so very, very important benefits. And just I mean, we know how bad it is. No, we stay with all this. Yeah. Especially for women. So, right.
Yeah, they do not. Yeah, they do not respect the the all other nationalities. You see, when I was there, if they have some like wedding there, any
Where were you?
functions. Sorry.
Which country were you?
Oh, like Dubai.
Um,
So it's they do not invite like some other peoples, like say in Bangladesh. They have relation with the Bangladeshi people alone, but when they have like their big parties, they don't they ignore them. They only invite their people only. So so
they'll be embarrassed.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and when you are going to meet them, so they meet you in some place, but when the other people will going to meet them, they invite, they can go to inside so many things, So, when people go there, they have experience actually. They have a lot of you know explanations. Yeah.
We're trying to use that here, but it's not working.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so brother Chopper, if I get on the top, yeah, the names. Alright, so, Danny, I'll ask some questions ready before we get to study. John, did you want to talk about something? Mention.
No, brother, I think next study,
Oh,
yeah.
what is it for overall joining us? Our next Quranic study would be on, sorry, Saturday. At 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Assalamualaikum.
Later.